When talking about and mentioning the Lakers, the first names that come to mind will likely be LeBron James and Luka Doncic, or then after them a guy like Austin Reeves, maybe JJ Redick, the leaders of the team, the biggest impact players in the team, and then obviously the coach of the team. But if you actually watch the games and watch the guys directly behind them, then you might think of guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and then lately, definitely a guy like Jordan Goodwin. Likely not a player you knew about or had even heard about up until about 2 months ago, but he's definitely become a big part of their team and definitely a favorite of JJ Redick's. Which ultimately leads to the question of, will he remain with their team? Will they sign him to a standard contract and therefore make him playoff eligible? Or what should they do with him? We'll talk about that and break it all down. But before we get too far into it, don't forget to check out G2A.com. They got your favorite new games like Monster Hunter Wilds, gaming gift cards, software discounts, and much more. So be sure to check them out in the video description down below. But now getting back to our topic. And like I mentioned, with Jordan Goodwin, filling a rather large role for their team lately, starting in their past 2 games, and although that might be temporary, definitely showing you about the trust that JJ Redick has in him and really on both ends of the court for their team too. Playing well for their team offensively, dropping 19 points in their latest game like I mentioned before, along with that playing great defense, playing great on the ball, off the ball, doing all the little things on the court, and it's really telling you about the guy that Jordan Goodwin is for their team. He'll fill that kind of role for their team, come off the bench and be a spark plug, and do literally whatever they need him to on the court. And well, from a numbers standpoint, that has culminated to 14 total games so far, about 21 minutes per game in them, 7.1 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game, and shooting a very impressive 51% from the field and 45% from 3. Not too shabby, and especially not for a guy that many say could not shoot prior to joining their team, which he is currently proving false. Now don't get me wrong, he might not be the best shooter in the world, is a near 33% career 3-point shooter, slightly below average, or a 41% field goal shooter, slightly below average again even for a guard, but he has been showing improvement and, even prior to joining their team, has been a good shooter from one particular spot in the court, that being the corner. Even prior to joining their team, he was about a 45% corner 3-point shooter, which is very good no matter what way you cut it, and then after joining their team, has been a 62.5% corner 3-point shooter. And no, I'm not joking about that, knocking down well over half his corner 3-point shots so far, and definitely benefiting from the gravity of guys like Luka Doncic, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, playing very well off of them and playing very well with them, whether you're talking about him getting the shot or him helping generate an open shot for them. No, it might not be with his on-ball gravity or him doing anything with the ball, but rather what he does off the ball. For example, during the first quarter of their game last night, here we have Goodwin setting an off-ball screen for Austin Reeves that did not appear to be drawn up. Might have been, but I think it was kind of more on the fly here. And it's not simply a one-off thing. Goodwin does this fairly often and tries to move their offense by doing stuff like this. And on this particular play, helping get Austin Reeves completely wide open, setting that off-ball screen on Stephon Castle, helping Luka find Austin Reeves, and then Austin Reeves knocking down a completely wide open shot, largely generated by Jordan Goodwin, which had nothing to do with him touching the ball. In fact, he did not touch the ball in this entire possession and arguably was the most important player on that possession. And that's pretty rare for a guard. Usually you're talking about a big man setting a screen or having the awareness to do that, not a guard and not a guy like Jordan Goodwin, which is very impressive and tells you about what he does to their team, not only on the ball or defensively, but off the ball offensively. Not in regard to 3-point shooting, but helping other guys get open, moving their offense, and having a constantly flowing state, which is often a value that does not go appreciated, especially for a guard like Jordan Goodwin. But quickly going back to the efficiency for him, very impressive so far and by far a career high for him. I mean, shooting 45% with their team, might be some regression coming, but that's by far a career high for him. Prior to joining their team, was shooting about 32% from beyond the arc, and well, that's a major difference. And if you ask Jordan Goodwin, it's primarily from playing with a guy like Luka Doncic, kind of confirming what Dorian Finney-Smith said about him last week, getting them completely wide open and in his particular wording, and here's what Jordan Goodwin had to say about confirming it.
When Luka first arrived, I think Dorian described the kind of shots that he creates as butt naked, wide open threes. Seems like you've received a good amount of those tonight. I guess how open do you feel in those moments when you're, when Luka's creating, when Austin's creating, and you just have, seems like all the space in the world or time in the world to shoot?
I think that's why I be mad when I miss something. How open I be. We get wide open. They don't even contest it most of the time because you got everybody in the paint kicking it out. So I think though, right, definitely be butt naked open out there. So yeah.
Again, playing with a guy like Luka can obviously do wonders for a guy like Jordan Goodwin, getting him completely wide open and from his favorite spot on the court for 3-point shots, that being the corner, leading to him becoming one of the most efficient 3-point shooters in their entire team since joining their team, which is very impressive, and again, especially for a guy like him that had not been a great 3-point shooter prior to joining their team. But apart from offense, gotta touch on rebounding and defense, and both which have been great for him. Or then apart from that, the lineups that he's been paired in, and the lineups that many thought he maybe couldn't play with, or then a particular player that many thought he couldn't or wouldn't play with, that being his direct competition, or so many thought, Gabe Vincent. And well, up until this point, that has been proven to be false. They've actually shared the court quite often and have played well together in that time. Up until this point, they have played 12 games together, 115 total minutes, and have been a plus 14 in that time frame. When they do share the court, generating about 3 steals per 48-minute average, very impressive and not too shocking from two defensive pests like themselves, have shot about 35% in those lineups, 47% from the field, and have been very effective on both ends of the court. Or then for a 5-man lineup combination, when they have shared the court with them two together, Jackson Hayes, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, they have put together a defensive rating of 100.0, very impressive and borderline elite at that, an offensive rating of 113.6, around league average and not too shabby, and then a net rating of plus 13.6. Very impressive and very telling you about the lineup combination, how effective it is, and even with those two on the court together. And well, even more lineup data pointing to that, and their individual stats pointing to that too. During their past 5 games now, in which they have shared the court quite often and definitely have had to coexist, they've absolutely been thriving on the court. For Gabe Vincent, playing 28.9 minutes per game, an identical amount for both of them, even with Goodwin in the starting lineup and Vincent coming off the bench. Vincent's put up about 12.5 points per game, shooting 51% from the field and 50% from beyond the arc, very efficient. And then for Jordan Goodwin, also playing 28.9 minutes per game, averaging about 9 points per game, shooting 53% from the field and nearly 53% from beyond the arc. Once again, both being very efficient and effective on both ends of the court, which leads into our next topic with Jordan Goodwin, that being defense. He might be their best perimeter defender at this point, other than Jared Vanderbilt. That guy's kind of in a different category, and yes, I would put him above Cam Reddish. Some people have occasionally mentioned that and why Reddish doesn't play over Jordan Goodwin or why he didn't get a chance over him, why Redick favors him, and well, if you actually watch the games and the little things that Jordan Goodwin does on the court, then you can probably see why. Whether you're talking about the effort he plays with, diving after loose balls and really never giving up on a play, or then screen navigation, really being a slippery defender and chasing after guys and taking on tough perimeter matchups for them, or then playing a whole lot bigger than he actually is, bigger than his 6'3", 6'10" wingspan frame might tell you. Whether you're talking about defense, bonding up with guys, or then rebounding, especially that. I mean, not too many combo guards will grab about 4.1 rebounds per 21 minutes in the court, or per 36 minutes, about 7.5 of them per game. So yeah, that's very impressive and something that does give him the edge over Cam Reddish, and by a pretty favorable amount if you ask me. And well, that leads into our final point about him, if he should be elevated from his 2-way contract to a standard contract, and then who should be waived from their team to make room for him. Well, the likely candidate for it does happen to be Cam Reddish. It makes sense from both a contract standpoint. Reddish is under an expiring contract and therefore they would have no dead money by waiving him. Or then from a role standpoint, they fill a similar role and simply put, Goodwin's better at filling it and has more trust from JJ Redick too. And well, between the both of them, it's more of a matter of when, not if, and we kind of do know when it will happen too. At this point, Goodwin has 5 games left remaining in the regular season on his 2-way contract. Despite only playing 14, he was picked up later, so it is prorated. So he's got about 5 left, and with their team having 15 games left, they definitely want him in before the regular season ends. And then on top of that, 2-way contracts are not postseason eligible, so they want to get him on their roster before that point, and again, likely a matter of when, not if, which will likely be around the time frame of March 26th after the Indiana Pacers game, or right before the Bulls game on March 27th. expect that to be when they sign him and sign him to a standard contract. But with all of that being said, what are your thoughts on Jordan Goodwin? Has he impressed you, and in what areas specifically has he impressed you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.